Hi guys and welcome to Wrestle Rap. I'm your host Connor Williams, and today I'll just give you a quick run through of the channel. This will be like What Culture, Cultaholic, but a bit less production value. It's my own opinion. You guys interact with me in the comments section and on Twitter. I'll drop that in the description below. Subscribe as well, and I'll be doing this regularly. And we just talk about the product we love, hopefully constructively, build on what we think could make it better, and we work from there. I am currently a sports journalism student, so hence why I'm doing this, passionate about wrestling. There's not much actually journalistically in England. There's a couple of indie promotions that I've spoke to and they're really nice. But there's not much in terms of, it's not got the publicity football soccer has around here. So I thought this would be a really, really good way to make a name for myself. But yeah, without further ado, let's move on to the Raw review. So Raw kicks off with it being announced Raw in your face. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know what makes this any more different. I guess it's just more in your face. What that actually means is another thing. They had Dolph Ziggler on commentary though, so maybe Raw in your face is I don't know, Dolph Ziggler. Yeah, but anyway, so we start off with Adam Pearce, who's made quite a bit of television recently, come out and say that Drew McIntyre Randy's an ambulance match for no other reason than I think they probably need to sell the toys that are coming out about it. We've all seen the Shark Tank match and the toys. It only ever normally says, merchandise selling from this. But yeah, and then he comes out and says, but if Randy can't compete and Lee wins tonight, Lee will take his place, which just seems a bit pointless. It's a lot of if, buts, maybes, my aunt had bull, should be my uncle, but she doesn't, all that type of stuff. Like, that Keith Lee isn't going to get the match because Randy Orton's going to be there. Like, there's no way. From what I've heard, it's only a kayfabe injury, and it just seems a bit teasing for nothing. I think it's purely because they don't know what to do with Keith Lee. You've promoted him, there's a big buzz in NXT. I think they're like this, what do we do? Rush him up to the main event or not? So he's round there, but he won't beat Drew for the title. I think personally they should have put him in the US, have him go clean over Lashley move up, Lee do that for a bit that way, how it used to be. Because if you do this, then Keith Lee's going to be caught in no man's land here. Personally, I think we're creative, but we'll have to see. But anyway, so we move on to the first match, and it's the Street Profits versus Cesaro and Nakamura. The Street Profits win. Ford gets suplexed by Cesaro but makes a tag to Dawkins. Dawkins comes flying down the rope, hits Cesaro, pin, clean win. Really good match. I quite like the Street Profits. They're very hot at the minute. Cesaro and Nakamura are great performers. Cesaro on his own is fantastic. He could wrestle a broom and get a 5-star. I think apparently they're meant to unify the titles. I think that's a good idea, but I think WWE just really struggle with anything other than the top titles to get much of a buzz around them. I think they get a bit lazy with them. Like the US and Intercontinental very often get forgotten about as well as these tag titles. So I don't know, maybe unifying them is good, less things to focus on, but I don't know personally. But yeah, it was a really good opening match. Now we move on to Backstage, where Garza and Andrade split up. Selena was there, Garza was flirting with Lorna, Andrade comes, goes, what are you doing, you're the reason we're rubbish. Garza turns around and goes, listen golden boy, you're being pinned. Selena's there like, I can't do this anymore, we're done. Garza and Andrade fight, I say fight, hug and punch in the stomach, and this was really, really good, I think, depending on your outlook. I think it's great for Garza. Vince thinks he's the new Eddie Guerrero. He's got the charisma, he's got the look, he's got the talent. And I think that's really, really good for Garza. My worry is Andrade and Selena, because apparently Vince doesn't view them as well as Heyman did. So now it's like, well, what happens next? I wouldn't be surprised if those two stuck together still, because they don't actually fall out. It's more like Garza's the issue. But we'll have to wait and see on that one, guys. Then we have the Hurt Business come out. MVP is a really, really good. He says business is booming. Cedric says my social media stock has flew up. I really like this group. I think it's good that they're good. They're just powered by money and stocks and figures, and I really, really like it. Just successful. Success is seen as their priority. And Cedric moving there is a really, really good move for him. It's better than becoming some mid-card jobber. Ricochet and Cruz come out. They say they're going to come for Cedric. Cedric's like, I couldn't hug my kids because I was defending you. I've joined the right move. I think obviously this is going to end in Cedric and the Hurt Business going over. I think that's the right thing to do. I do feel for Ricochet and Cruz because they're going to fall back down to no man's land, especially Ricochet. He's a really talented performer. But yeah, so this breaks out into a match. Cedric beats Ricochet. with the lumbar check. Really good match. The rivalry for these two could be really, really impressive. Like, we only saw a smidge of what they're capable of, but Ricochet, I've never seen someone do the flips he does, and I think Cedric Alexander's good enough in the air that you could have a really, really good, I'm not going to say like the Will Ospreay match that Ricochet had, but you could have a really good, high-flying, dynamic, fast-paced match with just these two. I reckon give them half an hour and you say do what you can in half an hour, you get a good match from them. But yeah, Cedric winning was the right call here. I thought it was really, really good. Retribution show up afterwards and they start saying, we're broken promises from the Performance Centre and we're going to show you who we are, and the Hurt Business taking notice. I thought this was really, really good way to start. Then we lead on to Mickie James, who says that this could be her last chance for the title. Her last chance. She is a former 6-time, I think it is, women's champion, and still looks incredible shape. Incredible shape. She builds for the Asuka match. I still think Mickie's a really good challenger for Asuka. She's credible. She's a credible performer. And if Asuka beats her, she's beat a 6-time women's champion. That is great. And also Mickie's really good in the ring. She's a solid in-ring performer. There was a point, I think personally, that Mickie's era of wrestling, there were certain people who didn't have the in-ring ability. But Mickie does. I'm thinking Tori Wilson. I was never impressed watching her wrestle. But then there was like Lita, Trish, Mickie, who were really solid. And I think this is good credibility for Asuka if she beats her. Then we move on to MVP, who offers the Hurt Business's protection against Retribution to that Adam Pearce. He says, listen, we don't come cheap, pay up and we'll do it. This is really interesting though, because obviously they've still got the rivalry with Ricochet and Cruz, which is why I think that'll end. Because you can't have a double rivalry, and normally if you do, they join alliances, but they're not going to join Retribution, are they? Like, they're just not. Ricochet's not going to join the people who beat up everyone on the roster for the last 2-3 weeks. So, it'll be really interesting. I think they're going to quit and then go straight into that one. Then we have the Asuka Mickie match. This match was really, really great. I said before that I think Mickie could put on a good match with her, and she did. Mickie James's mitt kick still looks good. There's one bit where Asuka does that, but I don't know what it's called completely. It's the bum thing she does. She gets caught in the ropes. And Mickie mitt kicks her and it looks so unreal. Asuka just sells it really well, drops to the floor. Incredible. It finishes with Asuka applying the lock. Mickie rolls over and then the ref just stops it, which obviously would mean normally someone's seriously hurt. Apparently though, on social media I've seen that Mickie wasn't actually hurt. She just really sold it well and the ref had to call it a day there because he was worried about Mickie's health, which, if that's true, just shows how well of a performer Mickie James actually is, that she managed to trick the ref into that by how well she sold. So yeah, it was a really, really good match for Asuka, and I think that's a credible win for her. Where she goes from here, we're about to lead on to, which is Selena Vega. Who'd have thought it? Literally just said I was a bit worried about where she's going. Right up to the title picture, clearly. She comes out, says Asuka got given the title, doesn't deserve it, slaps Asuka. I think this is a good rivalry. It's interesting to see Selena Vega wrestle, because obviously we all know she can wrestle, but she's just been a manager in WWE for a long time. So it'd be interesting to see if she's got ring rust. And Asuka will be a really, I think Asuka's going to crush her, don't get me wrong, but I think it'll be a good match. And like I said, it'd be just really interesting to see how Selena Vega performs in the ring. I personally am looking forward to it. Now we move on to Keith Lee, who says that him and McIntyre are friends, but he will take advantage of his dislocated jaw. Thought this was interesting. Keith Lee's obviously one of those proud characters. He's really built up to fight his way into the title picture. Drew's the same, so it's face versus face, but it works because it's competitive rivalry. I think that's really, really impressive. Then we move on to Lashley and Eric. So Lashley beats Eric, full Nelson, cluddles round him. Really, really strong win, mate. Lashley look incredibly powerful. For the Dominator, Lashley is an incredible performer. The strength this man has is incredible. He lifts him up and he just throws him with ease. MVP on commentary again, really, really impressive MVP. He's really, really good. He stays for the Owens match later that I'm about to say about. And I just thought he was really entertaining. His banter with Byron Saxton was quite good. Michael Cole as well. It was just really, really funny. Owens says that he doesn't realise the issue with Black. Black shows up behind Owens, he just misses him, so that leads on to their match. Next we move on to Braun Strowman in Raw Underground. Interesting, it now seems to be open to all the rosters. Braun Strowman looks really, really jacked in his top, to be fair. His green tank top, he looks really, really big. Seth Rollins then turns on Buddy Murphy backstage. He says, "You stay here, don't want you involved, buddy. Do you understand me?" Starts grabbing his beard a bit and slapping him. It looks a bit painful, that, personally, for someone who has facial hair. It's not nice when people grab your face. Then we move on to the next match of the night. So Seth Rollins is facing Dominic Mysterio. Seth beats him clean in the cage. Murphy does come out and nearly costs Seth. Ray's trying to get Dominic through the door. Murphy just swings it, thinking that he's going to get Dominic, and Seth's pulled him away, gone to go out, and it's cracked Seth straight in the head. Seth does win though, and Murphy does help him out. He attacks Ray a bit more, and obviously Seth gets the frog splash and wins. But it was really, really impressive. Buddy then gets beaten up again by Seth. He sells it really, really well. And then as Seth Rollins walks past, he says that Dominic, well done to Angie. I hope this one it turns out better at Ray's daughter. And then as they go in to see Dominic, Ray's daughter stops to show sympathy for Murphy. Now, I don't know what this is. And in the mind of Vince McMahon, I'm going to say here, with the best interests, it just means that Buddy's going to realise he can do better. I've seen some people say about a romantic angle, but that feels a bit weird, as Buddy Murphy is around about 30 to 40 and Rey Mysterio's daughter's 19 years old. That is just a bit weird, and in the mind of Vince, that is very possible. I hope they don't do that, because I really like Buddy Murphy. Anyone who knows me knows I think he's world title potential. He's got the moveset, the looks. He just lacks a little bit of the charisma. I don't want to see him do this. This is just all sorts of weird that I thought we got out of from the 2000s. But we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully it is just Murphy realising he can do better, and he should be better appreciated by Seth. But next we leave on to Raw Underground, where Braun beats down both Dolph and Riddick Moss. Braun looks really, really strong, but I don't know if he suits this, because this is all like MMA background fighting. And there's Braun, who struggles to get his foot any higher than someone's chest. He kicks one of them, and he just kicks him straight in the midsection. I'm like, you defo meant the big boot, but whatever. But I'm digressing again. Now we have Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre fighting over a disagreement. Keith Lee's doing this to Drew's jaw. Drew says, don't do that, it's really annoying. They end up getting into a scrap, which then cuts again to Braun Strowman choking out Titus O'Neil in the Raw Underground. It was very cutting from WWE here. There was a lot of cuts backstage. But then we go back to our third, fourth, fifth, the next match of the card, which is Owens versus Aleister Black. Aleister Black, while they're fighting, the lights flicker, he's distracted. Owens hits him with a stunner. Takes advantage, pins him. MVP on commentary is brilliant. He goes, that's not fair, that's not on, that's not fair. Michael Cole's like, well, a win's a win, shouldn't have got distracted. And this already leads on to MVP and why the Hurt Business is so interested in Retribution. Obviously they've cost them matches, and I think MVP just sees it now as an annoyance that they're worth getting involved in, which makes you think, who's the face and heel here? Are Retribution the face or heel? I personally can't tell Retribution. I don't really think I like it. I think it's a B-Tech Nexus and not done very well either. It's a really, really poor Nexus. I do like the Hurt Business though. I think they're really clever. Then we skip back to Drew and Keith fighting again. They're told to save it for the ring by that Adam Pearce, who, I don't know if you guys have seen the footage, but actually touches Keith Lee on his pec, which is quite entertaining, but he tells them leave it to the ring, which leads us into our second to last match of the card, which is the Riot Squad defeating Lorna and Nattie. Really, really basic match, really. I was gonna praise it then, but there's not much to praise. It's just a basic match. Lorna does get put through the table afterwards with a Samoan drop, which looks like a really painful bump for her to take. I don't think the Riot Squad are gonna beat Shayna Baszler or Nia Jax, really. I think this rivalry is just going to be another talent thing. They're really going to build those two up, and then they're going to fight, aren't they? It's like when Shawn Michaels and John Cena held the tag team titles, that competitive rivalry, and you know they don't like each other anyway. So it's not quite like the Sasha Banks Bayley implosion. It's more, you know, they're going to end up fighting. It's just a matter of when. But then we move back to Raw Underground again, guys. Like I said, there's a lot of cutting backstage. Raw is really, really long, and they do fill it with more backstage than matches. But they tease Cater versus Braun in Backstage Underground. This just looks like a great match. Battle of the two big men in like a setting where nothing goes, just pound each other. I'm really excited to see that one next week. Shane McMahon does say, no, not this week, next week. And then we get on to our final match, guys, which is Drew McIntyre versus Keith Lee. again, great match. Keith Lee's really, really impressive. He does so well for a lad of his. Like I say, he's a big lad. Yeah, I think it's fair to say. But he's a really athletic big lad. He reminds me a bit like Kevin Owens as well. Falls into that bracket. A big lad, can move well though. But Keith Lee's just incredible. He's just, and it's not like, I'm not saying big lad in a horrible way, because it is just pure power. He's just a lot of muscle, and he is phenomenal. I really hope he does well. I hope he doesn't fall into no man's land creatively, because I think he's really, really good. But yeah, Retribution come out and disrupt the match, which leads to the Hurt Business coming out quite a bit after, to be fair, but they do come out. Then they're fighting, then Lee and McIntyre dive over the ropes, and then the credits roll, and that's Monday Night Raw. So I think one of the big things to take from Raw was it was good. It was really, really good. I don't get why WWE are putting taglines on the end of stuff now though, like Raw in your face. Night of Champions is something like Gold Rush. Like, you don't need Gold Rush. It's already Night of Champions. Like, you don't need another tagline. It's already a tagline and a title. But that's the littlest like nitpicking I can there. I thought it was a really, really good show. I really, really liked it. I do worry about some places and the talent, but there are stuff that's moving quite nicely. I think the Murphy, Rollins, Rey Mysterio angle could go well, but also could go very weird. I'm on the fence with that. Drew McIntyre, it looks really, really good again. His promos are sometimes very hit and miss. I thought the one like in the early bit was like, nah. But he's a really good performer. His character's really, really solid. It beats running around after Dolph Ziggler like a really, really bad version of Diesel and Shawn. But yeah, guys, this is just my opinion on the Raw recap, Raw review. If you've got any more, leave them in the comment section. I will read them, I will discuss them, and I will see you for NXT.